A magnesium meteor hurls over the skies of Japan.
Witnesses say they heard the sound of an explosion, suggesting the meteor may have hit the ground. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Rich Yelago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. tasks the Senate to review charter change. The Philippine government allots 800 million pesos for a new port in the Kalayaan group of islands. DPP's Lai Ching-te wins the 2024 Taiwan presidential elections. Denmark's King Frederick X takes the throne after Margaret II's abdication. And after fans were treated to the 17 Follow Tour, Coldplay fans and NCTzens are waiting for their turn to take over the Philippine arena.
Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Nevada,
España,
Paris, France,
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.,
London Bureau, Papua New Guinea,
in New York,
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila, Mata ng Agila,
Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has ordered the Senate to review the economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri immediately followed the president's instruction and filed on Monday a Senate resolution of both houses, number 6. The said resolution proposes amendments to Section 11 of Article 12, or the National Patrimony and Economy, Paragraph 2, Section 4 of Article 14, or the Education, Science and Technology, Arts, Culture and Sports, and Paragraph 2, Section 11 of Article 16, or the general provisions of the Constitution.
The President agreed with us that the proposal was too divisive and asked the Senate to instead take the lead in reviewing the economic provisions of the Constitution. In this way, we can preserve our bicameral nature of legislation.
Zubiri said President Marcos urged the Senate to pass the measure, which would then be adopted by the House of Representatives. He added that such an act would also avert a constitutional crisis between the House of Representatives and the Senate.
This is to avert a constitutional crisis between the House of Representatives and the Senate, and to make it clear that there are no other planned provisions or amendments on any other thing but purely economic in nature. Tatatlo lang yung topic dito, and napakasimple, napakalinaw. So ito po ay gagawin natin para sa ganun we preserve the bicameralism of both the House of Representatives and the Senate.
President Marcos, according to Zubiri, also expressed concern that the People's Initiative was too divisive after having heard reports about bribery, threats, and disinformation while asking people for their signatures. Zubiri said that President Marcos met with Senate Pro Tempore Loren Legarda, House Speaker Martin Romualdez, Congressman Zandro Marcos, and Special Assistant to the President Antonio Ernesto Lagdameo Jr. on January 11 for a win-win solution for charter change. During the meeting, Romualdez voiced out fears of foreign investors, saying they cannot invest in the country since the issue of the legality of the Public Services Act is still pending in the Supreme Court. This subject matter has pushed President Marcos to start discussions of the economic provisions of the Constitution as initiated by the Senate. Senate resolution of both houses number 6 will also constitutionalize the Public Services Act. Romualdez also assured the Filipino people that their voices would be heard and their interests would be safeguarded when the houses begin the process of amending the Constitution.
Oil firms are again set to implement price hikes to their products tomorrow. Motorists are expected to pay 90 centavos more on diesel and kerosene per liter. Meanwhile, gasoline price per liter will increase by 30 centavos. The Department of Energy said the price hike is the result of geopolitical tensions in the Red Sea.
Meanwhile, Manibela gears up for a nationwide transport protest on January 16th, rallying against the government's PUV modernization program. Manibela Chairman Mar Valbuena announced that in addition to the protest, PUV drivers will march to Malacañang Palace. Starting at UP Diliman, the march will move through Welcome Rotonda in Quezon City and advance to Mendiola, Manila. With a projected 10,000 participants from Metro Manila alone, the protest is expected to dwarf December's 5-day strike. According to Valbuena, drivers and operators from Calabarzon, Central Luzon, and other sectors will also simultaneously stage protests in the provinces.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. along with First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos attended the wedding celebration of Prince Abdul Mateen of Brunei at the Istan Nurul Iman Royal Palace. The Brunei Prince Mateen is the 10th child of Sultan Hassanal Bolkiah. Mateen married his fiancée Yang Mulia Anisha Rosna last Thursday, but the celebrations lasted for 10 days long till Sunday. The royal wedding ceremony was attended by international royalty and political leaders. Among those who attended were King Jigme and Queen Jetsun Pema of Bhutan, Indonesian President Joko Widodo, and Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong.
In the United States, the White House has announced President Joe Biden's commitment to strengthening economic ties with the Philippines. President Biden revealed that a presidential trade and investment mission to Manila is scheduled for March 11 to 12, following his assurance to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. This mission will be led by U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo, emphasizing the aim to solidify the Philippines as a pivotal hub for regional supply chains and attract high-quality investments. U.S. National Security Council spokesperson Adrian Watson revealed that the mission's primary objectives include boosting the Philippines' economy through infrastructure, clean energy, critical minerals, and food security.
The Philippine government has earmarked 800 million pesos to construct the Lawak Shelter Port in the Kalayaan Group of Islands in the West Philippine Sea to beef up maritime security in the region. Lawak is the second largest landmass in the Kalayaan Island Group. It is located in the northeastern section of the Spratly Archipelago. Makati City's 2nd District Representative Luis Campos Jr. says the 800 million peso funding for the Lawak Shelter Port is on top of and separate from the 1.5 billion for the expansion of the airport on Pag-asa Island. He adds that the shelter port and the airport expansion projects give substance to House Speaker Martin Romualdez' pledge to develop the Kalayaan Island Group in a bid to encourage civilian settlements there. The said facilities will also provide refuge to bullied fishermen. Based on the 2020 census, Kalayaan is the 6th-class municipality. It is also the least populated town in the Philippines, with only 193 residents who all live in Pag-asa. Lawak and Pag-asa Islands are part of the Kalayaan Group of Islands, which is part of the West Philippine Sea.
Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS Research, says that the biodiversity of the South China Sea has been in a decline, reaching critical levels. This is due to the building of artificial islands and construction of outposts of rival claimant nations over the last 10 years. The CSIS recorded that 75% of damage dealt to the marine environment of the said waters was inflicted by China through building artificial islands. Between 2013 and 2017, Beijing dredged to build its artificial islands, which removed crucial reef substructures, killing nearby marine life. China's 3 biggest artificial islands are located at the Panganiban Reef, Zamore Reef, and Kagitingan Reef, with a combined total of 1,500 hectares of coral reefs that have been damaged.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, has restated the Philippines' commitment to the One China policy in the wake of Taiwan's Democratic Party candidate William Lai Ching-te winning the recent presidential election. DFA spokesperson Maria Teresita Daza emphasized the department's adherence to the principles outlined in the joint communique signed by President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. and Premier Zhou Enlai on June 9, 1975. Daza reiterated that the agreement between Manila and Beijing emphasizes the resolution of disputes through peaceful means, renouncing the use or threat of force. The One China principle underscores the Philippines' acknowledgement of the People's Republic of China as the sole legitimate government.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, confirmed that Iran currently holds 18 Filipino seafarers from an oil tanker seized on January 11th. Foreign Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega reported that Iranian Ambassador Youssef Ismail Zadeh assured the DFA that the crew members, though in custody, are unharmed. The seafarers were part of a vessel transporting Iraqi oil to Turkey when it was seized by the Iranian Navy in the Gulf of Oman. This act was purportedly in response to the U.S. seizing the same vessel last year for allegedly violating international sanctions on Iran. De Vega said that the Iranian envoy provided assurance that concerted efforts would be undertaken to expedite the release of the individuals involved.
Coming up, Lai Ching-te and the Democratic Progressive Party celebrate a major win in Taiwan. Times are changing as King Frederick ascends to the throne of Denmark. And former President Donald Trump mounts a major lead against his Republican rivals. Stay tuned, Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
This portion.
Inyong katuwang tungkol sa usaping ito.
Nasa puso dapat ng Pilipino to love what is Filipino.
Kaya dapat ihayag ng saloobin.
Kahit gaano kasi karami yung doktor natin, ay kung may bayad din, baliwala din.
Paano makakabili ang Pilipino ng bigas?
Himayin ang hinaing.
Gaano karaming pera bang kailangan mo para maging masaya ka?
Alamin ang pwedeng gawin.
So I think the lesson is, pag may fake news, i-correct ka agad ng people concerned.
Sagutin mo agad. Mag-reality check tayo.
Check yun.
Check.
Check na check.
Double check.
Check the check tayo dyan.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Pyongyang said that it tested a new solid fuel hypersonic missile. North Korea noted that the launch was aimed at testing the reliability of the rocket while claiming it did not pose a security threat to neighboring countries. Pyongyang disclosed that the rocket has a new multi-stage, high-thrust solid fuel engine and an interfimmiate or MEFIATE rang hypersonic maneuverable controlled warhead. The test fire occurred on the same day that a delegation led by Foreign Minister Choi Son-hui heading to Russia left Pyongyang. Meanwhile, South Korea's military said that Pyongyang's missile flew about 1,000 kilometers off the country's east coast. Japan's defense ministry claimed that the maximum altitude was at least 50 kilometers.
Former Vice President Lai Ching-te won Taiwan presidential election, now effectively becoming President-elect Lai Ching-te over the weekend.
我们一起走到了这里，谢谢你们用无比的勇气，坚持到最后一刻。 的胜利，对不对？这是一个属于台湾的夜晚，我们让台湾继续成为世界的关键字。
William Lai Ching-te from the governing Democratic Progressive Party is seen as a dangerous separatist by China and has won Taiwan's presidential election. Lai, the current vice president, who has asserted the self-ruled island sovereignty, beat his nearest rival, Hu Yu-yi of the conservative Kuomintang, by more than 900,000 votes. With the win, the DPP secured an unprecedented third consecutive term in power, signifying that most Taiwanese stand behind the party's values of preserving democracy.
在这场全球关注的大选，台湾告诉全世界，在民主与威权之间，我们选择站在民主的这一边，这就是这场选战对全世界的意义。
In his victory speech, the 64-year-old Lai congratulated voters for refusing to be swayed by external forces trying to influence the election in an apparent reference to China. He also said that he wanted to cooperate with China and maintain peace and stability. However, he also pledged not to be intimidated by Beijing.
使命，我将依照中华民国的宪政体制，不卑不亢。 维持现状，在对等尊严的前提下，用交流取代围堵，对话取代对抗，自信地和中国展开交流合作，增进两岸人民的福祉，达到和平共荣的目标。然而，面对中国的文攻武吓，我也有守护台湾的决心，并没有进行任何的挑衅。
China opposes all official exchanges between the United States and Taiwan. Earlier today, Taiwan's President-elect Lai Ching-te said thanks to Washington for supporting Taipei's democracy. He and Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen also welcomed an American delegation after their party won the crucial election. But Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning avers that the election in Taiwan is a local affair of China.
台湾地区选举是中国的地方事务，中方一贯坚决反对美台开展任何形式的官方往来，坚决反对美方以任何方式、任何借口干涉台湾事务。
China also urged the United States to abide by the One China principle, saying that Washington should not send any wrong signals to Taiwan independent separatist forces.
The former head of China's state-owned Everbright Group, Tang Shuangning, has been arrested on charges of corruption. This arrest follows an investigation by the Anti-Corruption Authority, which revealed suspicions of Tang accepting bribes and embezzling funds. Earlier this month, Tang was expelled from the ruling Communist Party for alleged violations of party discipline, including bringing unauthorized books into the country and accepting illicit gifts. This move is part of President Xi Jinping's extensive campaign against corruption within China's financial sector. Tang's arrest follows a pattern of high-profile figures in the financial industry being implicated in anti-corruption measures. In the previous month, Sun Gufeng, the former head of the central bank's monetary policy department, received a 16-year and 6-month prison sentence for charges including bribery, leaking state secrets, and insider trading.
Indonesia's Mount Merapi erupted again on Sunday. The volcano spewed smoke and ash high into the air about 1,300 meters, followed by ash rain. Sprays of ash from the eruption blanketed houses, roads, and vehicles in nearby villages. Authorities reported no casualties but evacuated some residents to safety.
83 countries held talks to end the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. National security advisors from more than 80 convened talks based on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's 10-point proposal. The discussions were co-chaired by Ukrainian presidential aide Andriy Yermak and Swiss Foreign Minister Ignacio Cassis. According to Yermak, the meeting aimed to prepare for any negotiations with Russia. The meeting was being held in Davos in eastern Switzerland on the eve of the 5-day World Economic Forum. Zelensky is flying to Switzerland on Monday to attend the annual summit.
Tesla and SpaceX boss Elon Musk condemned the lack of action on the part of United States officials in the death of Gonzalo Lira, an American journalist. Sources said Lira was arrested by Kyiv authorities on May 2023. He suffered from severe health problems from pneumonia and a collapsed lung while in prison. He also died while in Ukrainian custody. Last month, Musk questioned Washington's approach to Kyiv, saying how an American citizen might be in prison in Ukraine after the United States sent over $100 billion to Kyiv.
Denmark has a new king. King Frederick X ascended to the throne on Sunday, ushering in a new era after his mother Queen Margaret abdicated the throne after 52 years. The handover took place at a cabinet meeting at Christiansborg Palace in the capital, after a final horse-drawn carriage procession through the streets of Copenhagen. The former Queen Margaret signed a declaration of her abdication, officially transferring the crown to Frederick. After signing, Margaret II left the room with tears in her eyes, wishing the new King Frederick the best in all his endeavors. Large crowds gathered in the streets despite frigid weather. The occasional burst of song riding across the sea of people as they awaited the historic moment. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen then publicly proclaimed the king's accession from the balcony of the palace, a tradition in place since the Constitution of 1849. Frederick followed with a short speech before being joined by his Australian-born wife Queen Mary and their 4 children, including the Crown Prince Christian, the new successor to the throne.
Min mor har som få formået at gå i ét med sit kongerige. I dag går tronen videre. Mit håb er at blive en samlende konge af i morgen. Det er en opgave, jeg har nærmet mig hele mit liv. Det er et ansvar, jeg tager på mig med respekt, stolthed og stor glæde.
Hundreds of Tunisians demonstrated on Sunday to mark the anniversary of the country's 2011 revolution that sparked the Arab Spring uprisings. The demonstrators are demanding the release of jailed opposition leaders. Rosel Feria reports.
The crowd marched down the central thoroughfare of the capital Tunis, waving the national flag, commemorating the day when dictator Zine El Abidine Ben Ali was ousted. That set off a series of uprisings across the Middle East. One protester says their vision is still the same, despite some mistakes they made and despite the coup that took place, referring to President Kais Saied's sweeping power grab. Although Saied had been democratically elected in 2019, 2 years later, he sacked the government and suspended parliament. He later amended the constitution to further centralize power. A number of his opponents are currently behind bars as the North African country prepares for presidential elections in December this year. An opposition coalition leader says the election should not be conducted under conditions set by Saied. At least 16 Tunisian journalists currently face trial, according to local media. Many are being prosecuted under a law introduced by Saied to punish spreading false news with up to 10 years in prison. Rosel Feria for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Rallies in support of the hostages, protests, and a live music event took place in Israel as the nation marked 100 days since the Hamas attack on October 7th. Across the border, people in Gaza endured another day of Israeli airstrikes. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
In Tel Aviv, at least 120,000 people attended a rally for hostages. Israeli officials say 132 remain in Gaza, though 25 are thought to be dead. The rally began Saturday evening and continued for 24 hours. A member of Yuval Hera's family is one of those taken hostage by Hamas.
In 100 days, who can believe this? It's unacceptable. We need to do everything we can to bring them back. We can't wait, you know.
One unidentified family member took to the stage and told the crowd, talk, not weapons, is needed to bring the crisis to an end.
The best answer is a political solution and not a military one.
Elsewhere in Tel Aviv, thousands held an anti-war and anti-government protest. Protester Lori Ehrlich says the country should have never allowed itself to get into this situation.
We wouldn't have gotten into this situation had we had better leadership that can lead the country, that can lead the people.
Fellow protester Karen Saar works for an NGO, and she says the Netanyahu government cannot resolve this problem.
Again, this is a government that part of it is because it's what happened is because of its fault, and they brought this mess, and they cannot be the one to fix it.
Throughout Tel Aviv, several music events on Sunday drew crowds who danced, chanted, and joined arms in the cold and rainy weather. All of this is in contrast to how civilians in Gaza spent the day as the war reached this grim milestone. On Sunday, day 100 of the war, Israeli strikes pounded southern Gaza. A spokesman for the UN's Relief and Works Agency says 100 days means more suffering, more humanitarian collapse. Some Gazans returned to their city of Beit Hanun, that's in northern Gaza. They found the city completely destroyed, unfit for living, with no food or water. 100 days in, the Middle East remains a geopolitical tinderbox, where tensions are on the verge of erupting into uncontrolled conflict. Thomas I. Likeness from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Ecuador security forces have taken back control of several prisons that had fallen into the hands of gang members. This came Sunday after securing the release of more than 200 officials held hostage inside the jails. Angel Mamberi has more details.
Ecuador's simmering security crisis erupted last week as the government and powerful narcos gangs declared all-out war on each other after the prison escape of a dangerous drug lord. Inmates rioted in jails where gangs wield control, taking prison guards and administrative workers hostage. On the streets, a wave of gang violence has left 19 people dead. On Sunday, the army said it had regained control of 6 prisons. Officials also shared images of hundreds of inmates shirtless and barefoot lying on the ground at several prisons. Authorities announced the release of 201 prison guards and administrative officials from prisons across 7 provinces. Ecuador at one time had been a bastion of peace, situated between major cocaine producers. But the nation had been plunged into crisis after years of expansion by the transnational cartels that use its ports to ship the drugs to the United States and Europe. The latest crisis was triggered by the escape from Guayaquil prison of one of the country's most powerful narcotics gang bosses, Jose Adolfo Macias, known by the alias Fito. Angel Mamberi for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Anti-corruption crusader Bernardo Arevalo has been sworn in as Guatemala's president following a chaotic inauguration marked by a delayed start caused by last-minute attempts to weaken his authority. The legislative setbacks highlight the challenges Arevalo faces in leading Guatemala, where he has pledged to implement sweeping reforms and address issues like the rising cost of living and violence. Despite the obstacles, Guatemala's new president, who won the August elections by a landslide, took the oath about 9 hours after the scheduled inauguration time. He replaced Alejandro Giammetti, whose government had been marred by corruption scandals. In his address, Arevalo emphasized the strength of Guatemala's democracy and expressed optimism in transforming the political landscape through unity and trust.
Former United States President Donald Trump heads the Iowa poll at 48%. Trump maintained a wide lead over his two rivals for the Republican presidential nomination. The latest poll shows former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley seizing the second spot with 20% support. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis lands in third with 16%. Analysts consider the Iowa poll an important benchmark, revealing voters' choices less than 48 hours before Monday's caucuses.
The Oxfam's annual inequality report says the 5 wealthiest people on Earth have more than doubled their fortune since 2020. The yearly report states that billionaires today have become $3.3 billion richer than they were in 2020. Elon Musk is the big winner as his fortune skyrocketed to $245.5 billion at the end of November. Bernard Arnault, chairman of French luxury goods giant LVMH, and his family came in second at a net worth of $191.3 billion. Blue Origin's founder Jeff Bezos had a wealth of $167.4 billion, while Oracle founder Larry Ellison's net worth totaled $145.5 billion. The last on the list is Berkshire Hathaway CEO Warren Buffett, whose fortune peaked at $119.2 billion. Oxfam says that if the trends continue, the world could see its first trillionaire in a decade.
Up next, a volcano erupts in Iceland, forcing residents of Grindavik to evacuate. A bright green meteor lights up the skies of Japan. And hundreds of protesters take to the streets outside Britain's military base in Cyprus. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break. Don't go away.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos every Sunday, 9 p.m.
Lava flowing from a volcano that erupted on Sunday destroyed homes in the Icelandic fishing village of Grindavik just hours after villagers had been evacuated to safety. At least 3 homes have been consumed by the molten rock. Kimi Oria has the details.
This is the North Atlantic nation's 5th volcanic eruption in less than 3 years. The most recent occurred just weeks ago on December 18th in the same region, southwest of the capital Reykjavik. Most of the 4,000 people of Grindavik had been evacuated as a precaution on November 11th. Although they had been allowed to return home on December 23rd, only a few chose to do so. On Sunday, a first eruption began at 8 a.m. local time when a crack opened in the ground around 450 meters from the town. A second fissure then opened around midday on the edge of town, with that lava engulfing the homes. Jets of orange lava and plumes of smoke spewed into the sky from the two cracks throughout the day. Authorities say the eruption knocked out electricity and hot and cold water in Grindavik, but they add airline flights have not been affected. The head of Iceland's Civil Protection and Emergency Management says the eruption is the most serious threat posed by a volcano in Iceland since January 1973. Kimi Oria from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Rescuers in Colombia spent the weekend trying to find survivors of landslides that claimed at least 33 lives, mostly children. The tragedy happens Friday on a busy road connecting the cities of Medellin and Quibdó. Christian Fragata has the story.
24 hours of heavy rain triggered the catastrophe. Search teams, including firefighters, soldiers, and local residents, slogged through deep mud and debris in hopes of finding survivors. Relatives stood nearby, some crying inconsolably, others tearfully hugging. Rescuers used sniffer dogs to locate those buried and excavating equipment to gingerly remove the dirt. Officials are still trying to identify all of the victims. Authorities are warning of the high risk of new landslides. While much of Colombia is suffering through drought, meteorologists have warned of the risk of heavy rains in several departments bordering the Pacific. Christian Fragata for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
As Americans observe the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, Texans prepare to be hit by a sudden Arctic blast, causing mild climates to plunge into sub-freezing temperatures overnight. In Houston, Mayfanwe Zaragoza speaks with local residents as they share their concerns.
Texans are bracing for an Arctic blast, expected to plunge temperatures to below freezing overnight this Monday. According to the National Weather Service, the cold blast arriving Sunday is expected to drop temperatures into the 20s and teens by Monday. According to National Weather Service Houston, these hard freezes will be a threat for several parts of southeast Texas, Sunday night through Tuesday night. And the sub-freezing temperatures can affect Houston area residents for long durations. Eagle News spoke with Texas residents as they shared mixed reactions to the impending Arctic blast.
It's a really mixed feeling because I do enjoy the cold, but at the same time, this Arctic blast, it makes me a little nervous because if everything freezes, then there may be like water pipes that are frozen and, electricity may go out, kind of similar to previous times in Houston.
So I'm originally from San Francisco and it's always cold. What they say, summer is the coldest winter in San Francisco, so I'm used to that. This pending Arctic blast, surprisingly, I actually look forward to it. I love the cold. I love the idea of being able to wear thick sweaters and heavy jackets and, cozying up at home. So I actually look forward to the Arctic blast.
A couple lessons that I've learned from the 2021 blizzard is that I would definitely need to prepare a generator, stock up on more food, bottles of water, and then running the water so the pipes don't freeze.
I'm kind of surprised, but at the same time I'm not, because Texas weather is kind of crazy sometimes. I won't be able to go out and school might be canceled. In order to prepare for it, I'm going to try and charge my phone, or I'm going to stay home. I'm going to put the heater on. Just going to try to stay warm.
Stay tuned for further updates. In Houston, Texas, I'm Mayfanwe Zaragoza, Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Over 336,000 residents in the Democratic Republic of the Congo are in a dire situation after severe floods overwhelmed both sides of its banks. The floods claimed more than 300 lives and submerged the neighborhoods in dark and stinking water. It also damaged hundreds of schools and over 60,000 homes. Locals told us about their experience.
As of yet, our government has not done anything to solve this crisis. If it had played a major role in tackling it, then we wouldn't be using these small boats here. For now, we are still struggling. People are complaining about floods everywhere. For now, there is no help, and I haven't heard of any medical help. People are becoming sick due to the lack of assistance.
Highest level in 60 years after torrential rain.
Torrential rains that turned streets into rivers killed at least 9 people during the weekend in Rio de Janeiro. Water from the storm reached the roofs of cars on some stretches of a major thoroughfare in Brazil's best-known city. Percy Parlade has more details.
Firefighters say one man died in a landslide and a woman drowned. The cause of death in the other cases has not been announced. One woman is also reported missing. A dozen bus lines shut down and several metro stations were closed because of water on the tracks. Some parts of the city receive a month's worth of rain, typical in January, in just 24 hours. Mayor Eduardo Paez urged people to stay home Sunday for safety and so as not to disrupt rescue and recovery efforts. A national agency that monitors natural disasters says there is a high risk of landslides in 8 towns in surrounding Rio de Janeiro state. Percival Parlade for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A magnesium meteor was seen hurling over the skies of Japan. Scientists explained that the green light indicates that the meteor is made of magnesium. Witnesses said they heard the sound of an explosion, suggesting the meteor may have hit the ground. Japanese astronomers said the light appeared to have traveled toward Nagano Prefecture from above Kanagawa.
About 300 peace protesters rallied on Sunday outside Britain's Akrotiri military base in Cyprus, charging it as fueling regional conflicts in Gaza and Yemen. The demonstrators demanded the closure of military bases that have been under British control since the Eastern Mediterranean nation's independence in 1960. Julian Bukayan reports.
The protesters carried banners reading, "Ceasefire now," and "Stop funding genocide." Some online reports in Britain have pointed to UK and US military flights from Akrotiri to Tel Aviv and charged that they are carrying military supplies for Israel. A British Defense Ministry spokesperson says that British forces in Cyprus continues to support the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. The spokesperson adds no Air Force flights into Israel have transported any lethal cargo. Police stood between the protesters and the gates of the base. Protester Adonis Florides says the bases have no place in Cyprus.
Base is an anachronism. It's a colonial remnant. It's been used many times against countries in the area, other countries in the area, in the Middle East, and not only. It was used in Iraq, in Afghanistan, also against Libya also. It's not the first time we are here protesting the role of these bases here in Cyprus. They have to go, honestly. It's over.
Protesters also voiced opposition to the presence of British bases on Cyprus's soil, saying that they make the island a potential target. Julian Bukayan, from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Maldives President Mohamed Muizzu has called for the withdrawal of Indian military personnel stationed in the archipelago nation by March 15th. The request was reportedly made during a meeting with officials from the Indian embassy and other visiting Indian representatives. This move follows Muizzu's recent return from China, India's regional rival, and comes a day after he made critical comments about India. He emphasized that the Maldives' small size doesn't give anyone the right to bully his nation. Muiz's remarks appear to be in response to calls in India to boycott Maldives tourism after 3 Maldives deputy ministers made derogatory posts about Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
The Pacific Island nation of Nauru has announced a shift in diplomatic recognition from Taiwan to China, reducing Taiwan's diplomatic allies globally to 12. Taiwan immediately snapped back at this proclamation, terminating its diplomatic relations with Nauru to safeguard the country's national dignity.
All the countries in the world, they will recognize the true face of China. So we have every confidence to the countries with which we have good relations. We'll not fall into the trap of China's propaganda. But of course, we keep a very strong alert to the situation, what's happening.
China claims sovereignty over Taiwan and has been actively securing diplomatic alliances with the island's former partners, often by offering development aid. This ongoing competition has favored China in recent years, resulting in a decline in Taiwan's diplomatic support. China's foreign ministry welcomed Nauru's decision, stating that it reflects the global trend supporting the One China principle and aligns with the course of history.
瑙鲁政府决定同中国复交，再次充分说明一个中国原则是人心所向、大势所趋。中国愿同瑙鲁在一个中国原则基础上，开启两国关系新篇章。
White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's doctors think he may still need some additional care. The Pentagon said Austin remains hospitalized and is in good condition, but it did not give a specific date for Austin's hospital release. Kirby added that there is a routine, regular communication between United States President Joe Biden and Austin. He insisted that Austin remains actively involved at work, even if he is staying at the hospital.
Former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern married longtime partner Clark Gayford in a private ceremony on Saturday, January 13. Nuptial details were closely held by the pair. But the ceremony was staged at the scenic Hawke's Bay region. Sources said only family, close friends, and a few of Ardern's former lawmaker colleagues were invited, including Ardern's successor and former Prime Minister Chris Hipkins. Ardern and Gayford reportedly began dating in 2014 and were engaged 5 years later.
We still have to.
The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, says artificial intelligence is set to affect nearly 40% of all jobs. In its new analysis, IMF's managing director, Kristalina Georgieva, believes in most scenarios, AI will likely worsen overall inequality. She also urged policymakers to address the troubling trend to prevent the technology from further stoking social tensions. The IMF report echoes research from Goldman Sachs in 2023, which estimated AI could replace the equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs. Coming right up, it's officially Dame time in Milwaukee. Bong Joon-ho has strong words for the Korean police force. And join me as I clap and follow my way through the 17 concert. Catch more news in sports and entertainment when we return.
Ang kwento naming mag-asawa taong 2064. Yippee! 40 years together and still growing stronger. Ako si Lolo Ever.
At ako si May.
Oh, di ba? Ikaw si May, ang aking forever. Si Lola May na passionista, loves ko kahit ang tapang niya.
Hoy Ever, loves din kita. Naligo ka na ba?
Abay, oo naman. Paano nga ba naging kami noong taong 2024? Tara May, balikan natin. Panoorin ang nakaraan.
Kaya pa ba ng memory?
Of course, as long as you're with me. Si Ever for me. At si May forever.
Magandang umaga po, si Jeffrey Santos ito at ipipresent ko sa inyo ang aming lockdown surprises. Ano-ano ito? Super crispy chicken thighs, bangong si bola-bola, Asian chicken burger, sotahon gisado with chicken and squid balls. Yan ang nanamnamin ninyo! Wala ba? Wala ba siya? Ito na po, Kalutong Daza, kada Sabado, 11 a.m. dito po sa Metro TV.
Together, Sunday 25, Sunday 25.
Walang tatawid sa linya na yon.
Okay.
Malinaw.
Malinaw.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
A rare female leucistic Gentoo penguin was filmed in Antarctica. Chilean photographer Hugo Alejandro Guerra filmed the white bird at Gabriel Gonzalez Videla Base, where a colony of Gentoo penguins lives. Wildlife experts say white penguins are rare due to their recessive gene. They are more vulnerable to predators because they are easily seen.
Thailand's Nasata Light Festival has lit up Ratchaburi province for the 6th time. This year's event features 20 illuminated installations alongside Thai cultural elements. The show will run until April 28, 2024.
Nằmสื่อแสดงสื่อผสมเหล่านี้มาส่งเสริมรากฐานวัฒนธรรมของเราโดยที่ยังรักษาพื้นฐานของวัฒนธรรมความเชื่อซึ่งมันก็จะเป็นการสนับสนุนแล้วก็ดึงให้คนเนี่ยมีความสนใจโดยที่คนรุ่นใหม่ด้วยนะคะทำให้สนใจมากขึ้น
Filipino icon Manny Pacquiao met Dwight Howard as he hosted the former NBA star and members of the Strong Group Athletics at his Makati City home. In town to bolster the Strong Group crew that will see action in the Dubai International Basketball Championship this month, Howard played chess with Pacquiao and managed to get his shoe signed by the boxing legend. The 3-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year and 8-time All-Star nicknamed Superman during his NBA prime even challenged Pacquiao to a 3-point contest. Although not known for his long-range game, Howard joined a 3-point contest during the All-Star festivities of the T1 League in Taiwan, where he saw action for the Taoyuan Leopards last year. Howard also joked that he would tap Pacquiao as his trainer for a potential bout with YouTuber-turned-boxer Jake Paul. Strong Group seeks to rule the Dubai tilt scheduled from January 19 to 28 after a quarterfinal exit last year.
Parasite director Bong Joon-ho calls for inquiry into actor Lee Sun-kyun's death. Oscar-winning director Bong Joon-ho leads calls for inquiry into police investigative process following the death of actor Lee Sun-kyun. Renowned director Bong Joon-ho, along with a group of South Korean artists, has called for an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of actor Lee Sun-kyun, known for his lead role in the award-winning movie Parasite, which Bong directed. Lee died December 27th at the age of 48 after police found him unconscious in a car. At the time, the actor was under investigation for alleged drug use and had reportedly been questioned by police for 19 hours the weekend before his death. The incident resulted in the newly formed Association of Solidarity of Cultural Artists, a group of influential figures in South Korea's entertainment industry, to call for an investigation into the way the police and the media had handled the actor's death through a press conference held on Friday in Seoul. Bong spoke about the need for a thorough investigation by the authorities to ascertain whether there were any lapses in the police investigative process. The group of artists also urged all media outlets to delete articles that they claimed did not constitute responsible reporting and push the government and the National Assembly to examine current and existing laws that protect the human rights of artists.
17's Follow Tour was a breakaway success as Filipino carrots were treated to such an amazing weekend. While waiting for the concert to begin, Philo Carrots were proud to show off the different dances that they learned in preparation for K-pop group 17's Follow Tour, which had 2 nights here at the Philippine Sports Stadium in Bukawi, Bulacan from January 13 to 14. Also being the first K-pop group to hold a concert at the Philippine Arena, 17 made history again as being the first K-pop group to hold a solo concert at the Philippine Sports Stadium. Because the venue was outdoor, even fans without a ticket saw it as an opportunity to even catch a glimpse of the concert, some waiting outside since 9 a.m. Anong oras po kayo nakarating dito?
9 po.
9 a.m. 9 a.m. andito ka na. Yes. Bakit dumating ka ganito kaaga dito sa Philippine Sports Stadium?
Para marami makuha freebies!
For those who did have access to this 2-day concert, they shared that it was not an easy feat to secure tickets, but it was all worth it in the end. So kita nga namin, naghanda kayo for the concert. Can you tell us a little bit about your outfits?
So may bias is Jonghan. Kita-kita naman sa outfit ko. Ani eh. Akin po inspired by Wonu po na outfit ganun.
And they did not disappoint. The members not only impressed with their group performances of songs like Super, Clap, and Beautiful, but also with the 3 units, the vocal group, the performance group, and the hip-hop group, also giving a taste of what they can offer. The Philo Carrots, 17's Filipino fandom name, were pleased to see birthday boy Seung Kwan feeling his best on the second day of the show, after not being able to complete it on the first night because he wasn't feeling well. Hoshi made fans laugh as well when he showed his pants getting ripped for dancing too hard, something Philo Carrots know usually happens to him. Everyone marveled at the fireworks show that accompanied the group's performance of Hot, after numerous members mentioned how fantastic it was to perform Under the Moon. And at the mention of a last song before the encore, Filipino fans refused for the night to end, the crowd jokingly chanting, "Walang uuwi," which made the group's members smile. With this being 17's 7th time performing in Manila for one of their tours, the love their Philo Carrots gave definitely shows why they keep coming back. Meanwhile, the celebrations aren't over for the month of January, as Coldplay is set to hold their Music of the Spheres tour on January 19 and 20, followed by the anticipating Neo City The Unity concert of NCT 127 on January 21. This is Gianna Lianes for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
17! 감사합니다! Thank you! Thank you!
Hope you had the time of your life.
I had a great time.
That's good to hear. And to start the week, here's a quote from Lebanese-American businessman and motivational speaker Nido Kubien. Your present circumstances don't determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start.
I think that's nice to just revel in the fact of where you are sometimes. Sometimes we just keep looking into the future that we don't appreciate the present.
Exactly. I think it's a lot like seeing your glass half full instead of half empty.
That's a great mindset for this Monday. That's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International, your trusted news source, connecting you to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.